All right, so I'm going to move next to you, and I'm going to try to ensnare. Roll them dice. That's enough. Hey guys, I'm Tim.
I'm Bob.
And this is Board Game Rundown, and today we are going to do a preview for the Brightview Haunting. So Brightview Haunting is by Typhon Games, and this plays 2 to 6 players. This dumb kid, I say dumb kid, he's probably fine. Bert Hudson gets trapped by the Whisperer in the Elder Tree.
Way to go.
And so his sister and a group of her friends are exorcists. And they're going to go into the woods and try to see what happened to him. The problem is there's this really cool dude named the Whisperer that's like going around.
Perspective.
Just like, convincing everybody else that they should just go along with him.
Giving out hugs.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't do anything wrong other than possess you.
Yeah.
So one player is going to play as the Whisperer, who has been freed from the Elder Tree and is trying to haunt and corrupt all the exorcists, and the exorcists are trying to lower the Elder Tree power track to free Bert. And so, yes, and then depending on how many players you've got, you should always have at least 3 exorcists on the board, and you can control more if you want, based on player count. But all the exorcists are asymmetrical, which is super cool. And then the Whisperer also has his own unique set of abilities, and then he has powers that he is going to level up as you go throughout the game. So the board's going to be littered with like search tokens and these echoes, which are these little green tokens here. And the exorcists are going to go around. They're going to take actions, and they're going to try to get next to these search tokens. Search once, it's going to reveal. You're going to draw a regular old utility item. And then if on a future turn they want to search again, it's going to be a specific item from a deck that has been revealed once you flip that token over. While the Whisperer is going to be going around trying to collect these echoes. So he might be placing rooted gateways on the board, which are going to basically function as portals that he can move through. Or maybe he's going to draw ones that will give him a corruption. Of course, now I'm getting all the rooted gateway ones.
That's because you pulled off those
I just pulled those, yeah. But gain 1 control, which is then going to move up this control meter, giving the demon extra powers, rules, that he can break as he gets stronger as the game goes longer. But yeah, you're going to go around, and it's basically a race to either the Whisperer is going to try to corrupt and possess all of the exorcists before they can lower the Elder Tree track to 0. And that's basically the game. On your turn, you're going to get 2 different actions. You've got to take 2 different ones. You can move, search, use an item. Traverse, which lets you go through a rooted gateway. You can trade with somebody that's close to you. Resonance, which is just like you kind of focus yourself, and that's going to give you a token, which will allow you on a future turn to do the same, basically repeat the first action you did, because normally you have to do 2 different actions. Or you can invoke if you're in a ritual space and there's a ritual item on the board. But that does take 2 actions and has consequences.
Yes.
The Whisperer basically can move, which is he moves 7 spaces. He can move and teleport into the rooted gateways as part of that action. He can track, which is any number of spaces in a straight line, which is super fun if you can line that up right. He can absorb, which is going to absorb those echoes, going to add them to his board. If he has 2 absorbed echoes, then he can pulse, which will allow him to either move 2 exorcists up to 6 spaces towards him, or just give everybody corruption, right, as he just emanates that evil. He can disperse, which will be to clear out salt lines, which get in the way and block his movement. Or he can ensnare, which is to attempt to corrupt a cultist. They're going to roll these big chunky dice, and they're going to gain a corruption for each symbol shown. Otherwise, they're blank faces. If they go up to 5 or more during that action, they become possessed. And then the last action he can do is possess. So if somebody's already at 5 corruption, they are vulnerable. It says it on their board that they can be possessed, and you just possess them without making them roll the dice. There's some ways that they enhance those abilities over there on the control meter, but that's basically how the game works. Bobby.
Yeah.
Talk about some of your experiences with the Brightview Haunting.
Sure. So, man, it was like tight, right?
Yes.
So moving around, trying to find the items you need, completing the rituals, and activating these events that are going to have, game-changing things going on.
Yes.
Moving the Whisperer all over the board or letting him manipulate your character. I did appreciate that. The tokens for the exorcists are square with eyes on them, easy to identify, different from Tim's quote-unquote green, circular tokens. I'm colorblind, so I have an issue with colors, but there were no issues with any of this. Granted, this is a prototype, but I would assume that they're not going to make it,
right,
worse, make it bad. So, yeah, it was easy to tell all the tokens apart. All the icons were easy to identify. I had some player errors with some of the things that I did while we were playing that I think I could have played better, but it came down to like the last turn, and Tim picked the right character to possess.
Yeah,
otherwise I would have won. But
just dumb luck.
Yeah, it was super close. But yeah, it was super interesting. There were some other tokens I didn't get a chance to use that I would have liked to play a few more times to get to see more of the abilities and the asymmetrical abilities. Like I never had a chance to use her ability, which was unfortunate.
I kept possessing her.
You did. So yeah, it's kind of hard to use an ability when she's possessed all the time. But other than that, this character I used the bejesus out of. She was really my saving grace.
She was your all-star.
She was. But yeah, so as you're just going around the board and you're collecting all these, every search icon gives you a basic item, which can be helpful in a different number of ways. But then what kind of icon you have, and so you get these warding items that are good to help keep the corruption away and to help keep the Whisperer away. Or you're getting the ritual items or the items you need to put on these different ritual spaces that are all around the board, and then completing those is the main way you have to reduce the power. And so the salt circles are super strong.
Oh my gosh,
they're very helpful. So you throw one of those down around your little ritual space and just kind of sit there and do all your stuff, and it makes it difficult for him to get in there on you. I like the chalkiness of the dice. The components were pretty nice, even for a prototype, right? A lot of times you use standees, and they're kind of beating up the bottom of these, but these kind of slide.
Yeah, they're kind of smooth.
Yeah, kind of slide in and out pretty easy.
I will compliment the rule book, at least in the prototype, right? Rule book was great.
Easy to learn out of.
Player aids are really solid.
Yep.
The player boards are great.
Yeah, I was gonna say the artwork was really good, and then all the action breakdowns on the player boards was super nice. All my options right here, and it's not like they were abbreviated versions. It literally tells me everything I can do. 5 spaces, or if you have haste, move 7. Right, so I had a good breakdown of everything I could do. So
yeah, we very rarely checked the rule book. It was just maybe for some clarification,
just to make sure things worked the way that we thought they did. And
yeah, and at the end of the day, the game's pretty intuitive, which is really handy. The one thing I will say to keep in consideration, at least in the version we have played, there is the exact amount of ways to
reduce.
Remove.
That's right. You need to lower the power by 10. There are 10 in there, so you got to get every single one of those. So.
You got to get every single one, and that is how I was able to win. Even though there's also a little bit of randomness, right, with the way you're going to find these tokens, these echo tokens for the Whisper. So I was really fortunate because they're half of them are place a rooted gateway, and half of them are gain control. So those rooted gateways are handy because they're gonna make the map smaller. Basically, you're gonna be able to
get on
teleport.
the board easier.
But what's really handy is getting all of your powers unlocked really quickly.
Yeah.
And so the first 3 echoes I found, and this was just luck because they were all thrown in a bag together once they were punched, and then they were all just thrown out on the board randomly
before I got here.
Before he got here. But I was able to, the first 3 I found, I was upgrading these powers very quickly, which then allowed me probably to possess at least one of the characters a little bit earlier than might have been normal. But at the same time, Bob was able to still get that track down to 1 and I just so happened to be able to possess the character that had the
last
item
item I needed.
that he needed to reduce that final.
Yeah.
Now, again, could just be the prototype. There's potentially more cards and, in ways.
Right, more cards coming. Right.
In that. So I won't speak to that. But I will say that in its current form, it's tight. But it's kind of fun because it came all the way down.
Literally down to the wire. He had a chance to go after one of two characters side by side, and he went after the one character that had the one item I needed to do the last bit of power.
Yeah. It's funny. You know why I went for that character?
Why?
Because she was easier to possess. I just needed a lower
roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get.
Yep. That's why I say I should have had her use her item first instead of doing the ritual, because either one could do the ritual, whereas she had the item and had to use it. So that's why I said player error.
You could have won. You gave me the game. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks
I wanted you to feel better about yourself.
Yeah, that worked. But yeah, there's some cool things, right? There's events related to different area. The ritual tracks are going to do different. They're going to basically have different effects. But I mean, there's 7 ritual cards, right?
Yes.
And there's 7 events. So it's the exact number, at least in this version. But it's all really straightforward. It tells you where they go. So you know where they go when they pop up.
There's a board for each spot, and each spot it goes. I mean, technically, this board should be over there by like the meadow, but instead of having to reach way over there, we just put it down.
We just put it right there. It's easier.
But yeah.
But yeah, and I feel like it's hard. It's hard to get around. There's lots of twists and turns. So and I mean that in a good way, because I had to get. For me to like really make that track move awesome, or where I could just go in a straight line, there's only like a few places where it's more than maybe 5
spaces. Yeah, that's a good way to do, because you can't use the same action twice until you get strong enough.
Right.
So you could try to move and then use that track to get an extra 5 spaces.
Line up that track and down there, right? But I mean, in the thicket, it's really hard to catch anybody.
Yes,
it's really tough, which is cool. I think that's thematic and it makes sense. Again, the ruins. Bob was using some salt lines early on that really kind of kicked me in a different direction, but that ended up being his downfall, because then I was going for the echo tokens over there, which were the ones that gave me the power to then move past the salt lines. But the salt circles are still a problem.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, all things to keep in mind. I don't know. I'll speak for us both. We do tend to play a lot of the 1v many. We do like those games.
Yep.
This is an interesting twist on it. I like the idea of all these people running around trying to banish the spirit. And I also thought it was interesting that like, I'm not just like running around and attacking you. Like, I need to get up there and try to corrupt you. You know what I mean? And like, that's how I'm going to win.
Well, yeah. Then once you do like corrupt me, it's not technically over. There are ways to reduce that person's corruption and like smack them out of it, and then get that character back and then use them again, which I did a couple times. But
and then the corrupted characters can even go and whisper and try to corrupt the
other people. Yeah,
which is kind of fun. It gave me a little bit of like an Evil Dead
Join the dark side. We have cookies.
Kind of vibe to it. Yeah, you like cookies?
Yeah.
But yeah, so really interesting things going on here. I think if you like 1v many games, you should check this out. If you're interested in a unique horror theme.
And there's a high player count. A lot of those 1v minis, you don't see such a high player count.
Yeah. To go all the way up to 6 is pretty cool. Yeah. And again, asymmetric abilities. And they do, even in this rule book, have some suggestions where if all those extra exorcists,
if you're playing with everybody,
maybe here's some ways to help out the Whisperer a little bit. But in the version we played, the Whisperer felt very powerful, but you did have the opportunity to win.
Technically win at the end.
Yeah, so it was never kind of untenable for you.
It felt that way at times, but in the end, it literally came down to that one action. And had I chosen the other way...
And my preference in these games is a blowout either way is not really that fun.
Right.
So the fact that it came
down to the wire like that.
To the wire keeps it really interesting. It keeps me interested in going, yeah, okay, like next time, do this or do that. And like Bob's even already got the wheels turning.
I already have the strat for next game.
Right. And then again, there's 2 other characters you could play with different asymmetric abilities. You could mix and match them.
Right. Well, I'm definitely using this girl again.
Yeah, she was your all-star.
She was, yeah.
But so that is Brightview Haunting. They did send us this prototype, but we're sending it on. But that's everything I've got. You got anything else you want to add?
Nope, I don't think so. It is kind of nice they give you like a player that tells you what the Whisperer can do.
Oh yeah.
So like each player, like not only do you have your own abilities, you have a little cheat sheet, so you know what the Whisperer has available to them.
And they even have on one of these like your like what's blocked terrain, and it tells you what the exorcist passive abilities are, so you can see what all the different characters can do. The player aids are on point,
pretty good.
man. They are solid.
Pretty good.
It made teaching and learning the game very easy, and I always appreciate that. So
For sure.
all right, well, this has been the Brightview Haunting, and for the Board Game Rundown, I've been Tim.
Bob.
We'll haunt you next time.